Kate Jonuska, welcome back to the Rocky Mountain Writer Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Mark. Always good to be here.
Well, great to have you back on. And I want to start out with full disclosure. You're talking to a guy who has never been on a writing retreat. Absolutely true. And
Wow.
as much as I wish I had been on a writing retreat and have admired and thought and daydreamed about all the different opportunities that come along, and you're talking to a guy who always wishes he had done yoga but never did. And here we
And
are.
here we are.
And here we are talking about the combination of the two, and we're going to get to the details of a specific and very cool opportunity you've got in the works. But I just need to lay that disclosure out there.
Oh, well, that's perfectly all right. I still like you, Mark. You're still a very valid human being. No, I'm sorry you've never gotten to go on retreat. Hopefully that changes one day because I find them incredibly helpful myself. But as for doing the yoga, hey, as long as you get out and move your body in a way that feels good to you, that's a-okay by me, friend. Yoga is just my way and the way I like to share it with the world. But I also do think, just personally, yoga was built as a series of things to do before meditation to prepare to sit still and think hard. So it kind of is, in my opinion, the perfect complement to writing. But again, whatever your complement is great. But movement and writing go really well together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's this is we're going to get to the little the specific event you've got going on, but I think the
Mhm.
topic today really, as I was thinking about it, is just getting in that right headspace. And there's obviously every writer is different. There's no two writers alike. There's no two writers who write the same. That's why there's 2 million books published every year because you get to see all the variety of human expression that's out there. And there's also various techniques or approaches, daily processes around getting in the right space. For some people, it's just a matter of just getting up and doing it. And there's not any, I shouldn't say need for prep, but it just is you just get up and do it. But here's my question. My question to you is, take us through your journey a little bit. When did you discover and sort of put these things together in terms of developing the right headspace to write? And was it always that way for you?
Ah, good question. Very good question. And one of what I'll start with is maybe one of the reasons you haven't been on retreat is because you don't struggle with attention as much as I do. A couple of Pomodoro techniques at home is all you need to get like on the right track. And the way I really came to writing retreats is because Mark, it worked. Like I was able to go on one and it worked. I am someone who struggles with attention. Not only do I have just kind of a distractible mind in general, but executive function. Like I sometimes just do not have the energy and the effort to build the energy you need to write. So I am a little bit slow. Um, okay, I'm a lot bit slow. My first novel came out in 2017, and I'm only wrapping up my second novel now. I mean, it is a beast. But a lot of that work I have gotten done at RMFW conferences and retreats I have made of my own. Unlike a Pomodoro, which is what, 25 minutes of extreme attention that you have at home, and then you take a break and then you come back again. The retreat for me was bigger version. Those never worked for me at home. But being in a place where the distractions were gone, the housework was gone, um, I got, for someone who struggles to get 1,000 words a day, I was getting 3 times that. So when I came home from retreat, I really sat down with my husband, who's much better with focus. He's one of these people who could just look down and look up 5 hours later and have forgotten to eat. And I'm the one who writes a sentence and is like, oh, I deserve a snack. So we sat down to say, well, how can I recreate that at home or more often? And people on the video cast here, you'll see I'm actually in this little isolation booth. One of the things that resulted from that is I started working at this co-working space in Boulder, so I
Ah,
could get the mini retreat experience on a weekly basis. And that's something I still do to this day. But when I came home from retreat, This to me is a daily retreat. On days when I'm able to go to the co-working space, that is internet off. Well, except for you, Mark, but internet off, social media to a minimum. We all need to market, but and really focus, and I get some of that same results. So I guess to summarize, as someone with a little bit of attention problems, this just took so much of it out of my own hands. I all of it went away without me having to make any effort.
Yeah,
Another thing I'll say, and gender roles being gender roles, Mark, I don't know if you're in charge of the cooking around your house.
I am.
You are? Okay, well then you definitely can. You can relate with me being the cook of the house too, that it's always on your mind, that mental domestic load. And being able to set that aside, wow, what a lucky gift. And it really is. It's an amazing, lucky blessing when you're able to do it. Not all of us can just escape the, oh, I don't need to plan my own food. I don't need to plan where my sheets are getting washed. When you're on retreat, it's really
Yeah,
you show up for the meals, your bed is waiting for you. And other than that, there is only the one thing for you to do. So I hope that answered your question. But yeah, that's how
yeah.
I came to love retreats. This is going to be my 4th year this summer teaching at the RMFW retreat as a yoga teacher. So I lead the morning yoga. For anybody who's been on the retreat before, shout out yogis. It's a small but lovely crew among us who get to move in the morning, and then we write all day. So as you mentioned, the upcoming event I have, this is the first time I'm planning an event internationally. I'm doing a yoga and writing event in France in July. So it's kind of been a gradual evolution. And it really did start with RMFW and our retreat in Colorado Springs, which is just such a wonderful experience. It's sold out again, of
Yep.
course. Yeah.
Yep. Well,
And
uh,
please go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Well, while we're there, let's give the details about the July thing, and then we'll come back to some bigger questions I have. And anyway, let's get the details out there about July.
Right. July 23rd through 29th. This retreat I'm doing with an operation called Curated Yoga Retreats. So thankfully, I don't have to plan the details. It's all going to be very polished and very luxurious and easy. It takes place in the south of France, St. Clair, I believe it's called, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But basically, this is 7 days of retreats in the most lovely French countryside you can imagine. There's farm to table meals, twice daily yoga in this amazing studio. You can go to my website to see some of the pictures. It's like stacked stones in an old renovated barn. So what I plan to do there is we'll have twice daily yoga, very gentle. And in the middle, everybody has their own space. And then the entire outdoors, 2 pools, by the way, on the property,
Oh, wow.
to write. So it's been a gradual evolution of, again, my first RMFW retreat, doing more of these productivity things to myself, and then this first international version. So yeah, proud to offer it, very
Yeah.
excited. But it is just an extension of, obviously, a very more luxurious extension of what we do at the RMFW retreat. That
Mm.
one is so accessible, and I love it for that. This one is definitely more of a bucket list kind of trip. No less valuable for that reason, though. Actually, science shows that different surroundings can make us more creative. So who knows, maybe leaving the country rather than leaving your house will make you, 10 times more creative.
Yeah. Yeah. What, given the fact that you've done so many retreats over the years, what are some of your what tips would you have for those who haven't done a retreat in terms of how to approach it?
Um, Good, very good question. You do want to go into a retreat in order to get enough out of it, knowing what your goals are and make those limited goals. Anybody who's done NaNoWriMo, for instance, knows that you have to pace yourself or you burn out, and you have to be honest about how much you can do. For instance, you might want to outline a specific section. You might have a certain project that needs editing. You might have a certain project that needs XYZ work. Or it may be greenfield construction, as we say, that you are just writing the brand new words and you're going for length. But you need a plan. Number one, that helps you narrow down your focus. As I'm saying, we're creative people and our focus is always on the big, big picture. And narrowing it down can actually make us more productive. So narrow your focus to start. That way you also have an idea of success. Like you don't feel like, well, I got a lot done, but it's kind of foggy how to measure it. It's you really feel successful, and then that's motivating for more success. Another one, and obviously this is big for me, is plan to take care of your body while you're writing on retreat. We sit still for hours at a time. When I am on retreat, I actually write after dinner, which is something that I never do at home. I never have
Yeah.
enough energy, ever. But I write after retreat at dinner. So I'm sitting so much more than I usually do, with more intense focus than I usually do. So plan to take breaks. Maybe set a timer, um, uh, or use the meals breaks, something like that, to get a little movement, whether that's a walk, a little chair yoga, a little basketball, who knows? But whatever that is, make the time for it. In fact, for me, it's a treat. It's a reward that like, ooh, I get to get up and take a walk now because I've actually put enough words on the page. Especially because, oh, and Bernadette, our president, was actually giving me a hard time at the retreat because I was such a walker. She's like, oh, Kate's walking again. It must be time. So I'm just very regimented, and it's a beautiful place. It's a treat to just
Yeah.
go and take a walk.
Yeah.
And then prepare to unplug. Prepare to set aside social media, friends, family, anybody who you think may be contacting you. Let them know in advance that, like, I'm going to be gone. It just sets you up to unplug the more you talk about it. And then they know if they do happen to contact you that, like, you're just going to be a while. So those are my three main tips.
Yeah. Very, very good stuff. Is this the kind of retreat, the one in southern France, where you're going to share and get together at the end of the day and talk, or maybe read something you wrote that day, that kind of experience? Are you building community, or is it just come as a bunch of individuals and go through your daily schedule?
There's definitely community building as well. I mean, all of it is optional. I mean, if you do want to, write during some of the events, but we encourage at least some participation. But there's productivity exercises if you choose, if you like to write in front of other people for the good kind of peer pressure. Yes, we plan on having an open mic of sorts. The yoga itself will also be a bonding exercise for those who participate. In fact, the final yoga of the day, the evening yoga, is themed around story time, yin yoga. Yin is restorative yoga, long holds of restorative poses. And we plan to do that while we read poetry and short stories. So those actually, by the end of the retreat, the week-long retreat, I hope that people will be suggesting their own poems and short stories to share with the group. So throughout the day, there are those points of connection. And those are super important. As I was researching this retreat and how to structure it, I was looking into the science of these things. And in fact, let me pull it up because it's quite an amazing statistic that writing retreats, and this is for academic retreats, but I'm assuming it counts for us fiction writers too, can lead to 20 to 50% increase in output. But that 50% side increase in output usually comes with community engagement at the retreat. So not only interaction with other participants at the retreat. And not only did that put participants toward that 50% edge of productivity rather than the 20%, it actually improved their careers, because the bonds you make at those retreats are actually networking, like legitimate, honest, heart-to-heart networking that in the small world of publishing and writing can actually open doors for you through communication, people who know other people. A rising tide pulls up all boats, and the more boats you know, the more tides you have access to. It's kind of the way it goes.
Of all the quote writing advice out there, and which might be around the actual words on the page, but I believe 100%, 1,000% that is the number one key right there. Putting aside all the craft, putting aside all the discussion about how best to approach a scene or a novel or anything else, the number one advice is right there that the words will get better the more your community builds, the more you putting yourself in situations to be accountable to produce, like you are doing in a retreat. The more you have a writing friend and you talk every week and say, how's that book going? How's that scene going? How's that chapter going? That's where just by engaging in the process, engaging in the art with a community, you're naturally going to get better because and everybody knows it's true. The more you do it, the better you get. And that's the key. And then you've got a team of people who can help you. And when you hit those bumps, they can help you when you um, need a lift and a hand back up. And you can turn around and help others then too, which is that's what's so cool.
Yeah, the perseverance element, you're right. Like when you fall down and you have someone to pick you back up, because when you're alone, you fall down and you fall down. When you're in a group, I'm slow in my writing, but I never stop. I
Yeah.
never give up. Like you fall down and you get back up, whatever speed you are going, and having friends on that journey is so important.
Yeah.
One other thing, just speaking of, falling down, getting back up, we all have our struggles. And personally, that executive function can be really hard for me, especially when I'm going through health problems or something like that. That, like, all of a sudden you do not have the wherewithal to build that house of cards that is your story. Because every time you sit down at the keyboard to build that house of cards, first you have to do that before you manipulate any of them. And anything that gives me a little bit of extra attention for my writing, so retreating and community. Community just really rebuilds all of that for me because I'm suddenly not in the dark trying to figure things out and having to figure it out just me. I can just go talk to a friend. I can ask a friend. It really helps me move past those periods of like low energy and low ideas.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. Wow. Can you talk about the price here on YouTube?
I can. I can. Let me pull it up so I don't get it wrong. But the all-inclusive price starts at about $3,000 per person, which again I know is significant, but that
But
includes. Go ahead.
now 3 meals a day and a place to sleep.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
3 meals a day. There's a private chef on site who makes these meals using farm to table ingredients. So we will be spoiled rotten. I get 2 pools on the site. It's transfers from either the train station in Toulouse or the plane station, the
Yeah.
airport. Excuse me.
Why don't they call them
So
plane stations? Yeah.
yeah, hey, the brain makes
Yeah.
connections, communication
Yeah.
occurs. But
Yeah.
so the only other thing you're responsible for is the flights. So from doorstep to doorstep, you'll be taken care of. So everything else is off your plate, so you can handle, your body and your creative mind.
Yeah.
So that other things, there are options to add on. You can get massages on site if you'd like to add on a bit. There's also a few additional excursions, which are very much optional. But since it's a week-long retreat, you may need to get off site a little bit. And I have some
Yeah.
creativity themed excursions planned. So the nearby city of Toulouse has some great, say, bookshops, uh, other things to explore. There's some other not mountain biking, but easy biking options, percent, but totally optional. So check out the website. We'll have the link for all of the viewers and listeners. And check out the pictures. There's accommodations for single and doubles. You get to, of course, say, usually people sign up as a group for a room,
Yeah.
but there are payment plans available. And also the room arrangements are a little bit flexible. So if you want a king instead of a different size, totally possible. Or maybe try to get a triple instead of a double, might be possible. As I said, I'm working with curated yoga retreats. The woman who runs that, she gets very high recommendations. Check out all of her ratings, but she handles the payments, the lodgings, all of the arrangements from the massages and the meals and the linens. So I can just focus on the yoga and the networking and the creativity. That's why I really wanted to sign up with her. As you know, I figured it'd be worth a shot. Again, it's a moonshot creative retreat going all the way to France, but it's worth a shot because she seems to know exactly what she's doing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and I just have to put in a plug for Southern France. I've been there, I think, 4 or 5 times to various
Ugh.
places, and the food, I can't even begin to talk about the cheese without starting to cry. It's so good. And the
Oh,
wine,
yay.
the wine and the wine. If you offer me cheese or sweet for dessert, I'll take cheese in France every time. It's so amazing.
Mm.
Um, and just the atmosphere, people are super friendly in rural France, I found, and it's just incredible. It's magic. Yep.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. I've
Yeah.
never gotten to go it myself. Been to Paris, but never got to go outside the city in that kind of whirlwind European touring kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. The rural France is a whole different vibe, and the people are just, it's very, very pleasant down there. You'll love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, just as we start to kind of wrap up here, Kate, are you able to give us a little sneak peek on what your work in progress is about and what's going on?
Well, many of my friends out there in Writerland have already heard the pitch for this book because it's been going on so long, but it is a near future dystopia that is feeling more and more relevant actually as the world unfolds. It takes place in a new Denver, which is a town built on old Denver, and kind of the new frontier of the Wild West in a world where plants no longer grow in the soil. So we exist on tasteless nutrients. It's a little bit dark, but bit by bit, it's moving forward. And honestly, this does feel like the final draft. And I really do have to give a shout out to my community, especially my critique group, 30th Street Fiction, because there are so many places I could have given up on this because it's gone so slow, and they have not let me. So I appreciate them.
That's great. A Boulder-based group, I believe, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're also
Yeah.
virtual, so hybrid meetings. So if anybody
Yep.
is looking in the area, let me know. We are sometimes looking for new members.
Awesome. What a terrific. Well, we always like to, of course, as we wrap up, pay it forward a little bit, recommend a book or a writer out there that you think more people should be paying attention to.
Ah, I, when I was asked for a recommendation, this immediately popped into my mind, and it's Can't Spell Treason Without T, and that's spelled Tea by Rebecca Thorne. And I got to meet Rebecca at the RMFW conference. She was selling this book in the bookshop. And number one, it is gorgeous, just gorgeous. She has an amazing printing done with colored pages and illustrations. But then I actually read it, and I love it as well. It's a cozy fantasy mystery that's kind of about a warrior and a mage trying to make a bookshop slash tea shop work out in the middle of fantasy nowhere.
Ah, great.
But highly recommended. Um, can't spell treason without T.
Got it. Fantastic. Really good. Kate, thanks so much. Let's hope you get a full group going. And obviously, if when Colorado Gold comes around, do you think you already know you're going to be there and running the yoga sessions again, perhaps this year? Do we know?
Well, I'm happy to say I actually have no idea because I will
Yeah.
not be part of the organizing committee. I will be submitting
Ah,
I will be submitting to do yoga. Yes, I hope to teach yoga. If it doesn't work out, of course, and mine isn't chosen, that's fine. So while I hope to, it's for the first time in 4 years, I cannot guarantee it because I'm not a part of
yeah.
the conference planning committee. Shout
Yeah.
out to those who are. I'm very excited for the theme. The theme looks great. Superheroes. I'm also have heard some rumblings about the kickoff party that sounds super fun. So stay tuned.
Whoa. Whoa. That reminds me, I've got to go look at the uh, whole process that they set up for evaluating the workshops. I've got to go check in on that. So thanks for the reminder here on the podcast.
It looks easier this year. It looks good,
Yeah, yeah.
but we'll see.
Well, and shout out to Amber and all those who are heading all that work up for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, Kate. Thank you so much. thanks for jumping on the podcast, and hope you have a great rest of the late winter and spring, and rolling right into summer with your trip.
Well, thanks for having me, and happy writing, RMFW land.